Whatever happened to Gary Cooper? The strong, silent type.
Now this is a line stated by protagonist Tony Soprano about his hero Gary Cooper, who it's made obvious Tony sees himself as, which obviously he's nothing like. As Tony mentions that Cooper was never really emotional, which Tony's actions throughout the show are usually always due to his emotions, whether it be in the killing of Ralph, or him angering Janice at dinner, which goes directly against his strong silent type. However, there are people in his family or associates that fit into the mold of being the strong silent type, those being Theo and Silvio. However, I want to mainly focus on Silvio. Silvio throughout the show is shown to be Tony's most loyal friend, so much so when Tony is shot by Junior, Silvio is put as acting boss, in which you get to see the pitfalls of being the boss, such as never having any peace and quiet, when Silvio isn't even able to go to the toilet without getting interrupted, or even go to bed without having to deal with the issues between the family. And due to the stress of being the boss, Silvio collapses in that same episode. Now during the episode, we get to see Silvio's reasoning for not wanting to be the boss.
I never saw myself as that kind of guy. I'm more behind the scenes. Advice, strategy.
Which I think shows his Gary Cooper characteristics. And during one of the times Tony mentions Gary Cooper is when he's in the car with Silvio.
Not for nothing, but you're getting a little confused here. Hey, that was the movies.
Which, when Silvio calls him out, I do think it's almost him calling out Tony, pretending to be like Gary Cooper. Like how Cooper is an actor in a movie, Tony is acting like Cooper. Now, throughout the series, we see instances of Silvio being the strong, silent type. The most obvious example is when he kills Adriana. He does so in a manner like Tony says in the pilot episode.
He wasn't in touch with his feelings. He just did what he had to do.
As he is possibly one of the only characters in the show who could have done something like this due to most of the mob members being in touch with their feelings, whether it be Tony, who the show clearly demonstrates has feelings for Adriana, Christopher obviously, and Polly is literally caught sniffing Adriana's underwear. Thus, Silvio was the only person who could catch all emotion and do what needed to be done in order for the family to continue to exist. Another characteristic of a Gary Cooper character was loyalty, which Silvio always had, and the show does show us one of the things that angers him the most is betrayal, like the aforementioned Adriana murder. He's shown to often be the one to kill the rats throughout the show, from Jimmy to Pussy
Did I sit?
to Bert.
Yeah?
The latter one was out of disgust from his betrayal, in which he approached Silvio about a negotiation with New York, and thus a betrayal of Tony. And Silvio is 100% with Tony all the time, and even calls him out subtly when he believes Tony is in the wrong. Like during Tony's thought process about whether to kill Vito.
Vito wanted to pursue that lifestyle. He should have done so quietly. He was, wasn't he?
Or in another great scene, in which he talks with Tony about how Patsy is feeling undervalued and marginalised. However, it is made quite obvious Silvio was talking about himself.
The problem?
It's just, I don't know. Patsy feels bad. Maybe he was passed over.
And in most scenes like this, Silvio gives out great advice, which of course Tony ignores. Despite that, Silvio still cares about him. Like when Tony is in his coma, Silvio almost is scared to see him, and holds his hand. The same way in which Silvio's coma, Tony holds Silvio's hand the same exact way. And during the scene in which Jerry is murdered, we see Silvio casually and calmly escort the woman out of the restaurant, thus showing again his strength and silence. Overall, I believe Silvio is the perfect fit for the strong silent type, which Tony wants to be, but he isn't. As Silvio is loyal, intelligent, sound of mind, and funny enough, despite him being an almost stereotypical gangster, Silvio has overall more admirable qualities, and isn't emotionally driven. Fits, in my opinion, perfectly with the strong silent type.
If he was American around nowadays, he'd be a member of some victims group. The fundamentalist Christians, the abused cowboys, the gays, whatever the fuck.
He was gay, Gary Cooper?